10 famous food origins we all got wrong. When it comes to the foods we love, we often associate them with specific cultures or countries. But how well do you know the backstories behind the bites on your plate? What if I told you the croissant you're eating isn't actually French, or that pasta with red sauce isn't 100% Italian? Stay tuned, because in this video, we're exposing the shocking origins of foods hiding in plain sight that are guaranteed to leave you shocked. Number 10. Apple pie. Everyone knows apple pie is the all-American dessert, right? Well, not so fast. Apple pie has long been loved as all-American. However, where did it start? Believe it or not, this favorite did not begin here. Apples came from far away, brought by European settlers long ago, and the spices like cinnamon in the filling traveled even farther, from tropical islands like Sri Lanka. The first apple pie recipe was cooked in America and England in the 1300s. Later, people from France and Holland added their touches too. When settlers sailed west, they took apple pie along. Soon, it was a hit in the new land. America's earliest cookbook had recipes for different kinds of this yummy treat. Back then, it was not mainly American. However, apple pie became linked to special holidays and patriotic feelings over time. Advertising helped spread the idea of it representing home. So even though apple pie's origin lies overseas, apple pie shows how different worlds can merge. Just as the blending of cultures shaped America's story, ingredients from lands far-flung have united into a dessert cherished by all. Number 9. Peanut butter.
Intensive. I'll bet they won't have... Wow, they have it!
Creamy peanut butter.
You might think peanut butter belongs to America alone. However, this tasty treat has traveled farther than you know. Long before your peanut butter and jelly, ancient people in faraway lands were discovering peanuts. Aztec farmers in Mexico grew them to eat. They mashed the nuts into a paste as a yummy snack. This nutty nibble idea soon spread across the ocean. Peanuts made their way into new places and foods over hundreds of years. However, it was not until much later that peanut butter took off. A man from Canada thought of a machine to make peanuts smooth and easy to spread. This lets peanut butter be made fast for more people to enjoy. Businesses soon worked to sell peanut butter in the US. They told a story of it starting here on southern farms. Soon, everyone loved having it on bread for lunch. So, while we think of peanut butter as our own, its history is worldwide. Its journey began long ago in Aztec fields, and many helped make it what it is today. So, the next time you eat PB&J, remember, this tasty treat traveled far and wide before landing on your plate. Number 8. Donuts. Donuts? I would have bet my entire paycheck that these sweet fried rings were about as American as it gets. But you'll never guess where they started: the Netherlands. In the 1600s, Dutch immigrants brought their version of a fried treat called olie koeks, which translates to oily cakes. Well, it makes total sense since they were deep fried right in the oil. And these early donuts took more of a bun shape than the perfect circles we know today. Once those Dutch delights landed on American soil, they took off. Generations of Dutch families in New York passed down their olie koek recipes. Early writers even swear by these original Dutch donuts. Then, in the 1800s, the name was shifted to donut. To be honest, it'd make sense if someone says the donut with that iconic hole in the middle might have been dreamed up by an American looking to crisp them up more evenly in the hot oil. Can you believe our favorite morning snack has roots back in the Netherlands? Well, I need to rethink every glazed donut I've ever eaten. Number 7. Tempura. You won't believe the origin of one of Japan's most iconic dishes, tempura. We've all thought tempura is about as Japanese as sushi and ramen. Battered in fried seafood or veggies, a dish you'll find at any good izakaya. But I've got a real food history bombshell for you. Tempura was introduced to Japan by Portuguese missionaries hundreds of years ago. This story takes us back to the mid-1500s. That's when Portuguese Jesuits traveling on a Chinese ship landed in Japan. Once they got a foothold, they stuck around for almost a century, exchanging goods and culture with the locals. One of the dishes these Portuguese brought over was called peixinhos de horta, essentially battered and fried green beans. Well, the Japanese loved it, but being the clever culinarians, they wanted a shorter, punchier name than the long Portuguese original. That's when they renamed it tempura, borrowing from the Latin word tempora, which translates to times. And just like that, a whole new Japanese culinary tradition was born, and it wasn't even native to the islands. It's wild to think all those flavor-packed shrimp and veggies we know and love can be traced back to 16th century Portuguese immigrants. It shows you can't trust those national dish labels at face value. There's always more to the story of how foods evolve over borders and through history. Number 6. Croissants. Croissants. As French as you can get, right? But their origins may surprise you. These light, buttery puffs of goodness trace their roots back to Austria, way back when Viennese bakers were crafting a yeasted roll called a kipferl, literally meaning curved or twisted. Over time, that style of roll spread eastward. In the 1830s, the croissant took off when an Austrian baker named August Zang moved his skills to Paris. Setting up shop at the Boulangerie Viennoise, or the Vienna Bakery, Zang introduced his version of the kipferl, which the French dubbed the croissant we know today. Isn't it funny how sometimes our most profound food associations can be wrong? Who wouldn't instantly tie those flaky, buttery treats to France? But the truth is, croissants may have been perfected in Paris, but the concept originated much further east, brought by Austrian immigrants experimenting with yeasted dough. It shows that there's often more intricacy behind the foods we think we know so well. Now, before moving on to the next food item, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Number 5. Red sauce pasta. You know how Italians are synonymous with pasta, right? But get this, some of their most famous sauces may need to be entirely homegrown. It's true that ancient Romans were onto all sorts of creamy, white, and wine-based pasta tops well before anyone else. But one key ingredient, the tomato, was brought to Italy from South America in the 1500s. Believe it or not, the first recorded tomato sauce recipe appeared in an 18th century French cookbook. Can you imagine how mind-blowing that must have been for generations of pasta lovers thinking red sauce was through and through Italian? I'm sure plenty of Italians would be surprised at this little piece of culinary history. Number 4. Meatball and spaghetti. Meatballs and spaghetti, an American classic or stolen Italian heritage. One of the most iconic and beloved comfort foods across the United States is a big steaming bowl of meatballs and spaghetti. Red meatballs lovingly cooked in tomato sauce, tossed with spaghetti noodles, the flavors and aromas are synonymous with feelings of warmth, nostalgia, and home. But did you know, this dish that Americans proudly claim as their own national food has origins across the pond in Italy? While meatballs can be traced back to many European cultures, the combination of meatballs with long strand pasta is distinctly Italian. So, how did this authentic Italian pasta dish become so embedded in American culture instead? Some say it was Italian immigrants in the early 20th century who brought the recipe with them, adapting it to American tastes by increasing portion sizes. Over time, it took on a life of its own stateside as assimilation occurred. Today, you won't find meatballs and spaghetti on Italian restaurant menus in Italy. The typical version there consists of smaller polpettes nestled in soup or as an appetizer. Some traditionalists in Italy argue America has stolen their heritage dish, bulking it up beyond recognition. So the next time you wrap your lips around a giant meatball, consider who the real owner of this recipe is: an American classic or an Italian dish in disguise. Number 3. Caesar salad. Who would have guessed that the classic American salad, the Caesar, has roots in Mexico? We all assume it's named after some ancient Roman. Still, the real mastermind behind that garlicky croutons creation was an Italian immigrant, Caesar Cardini, who worked as a chef in Tijuana during Prohibition. In 1924, the legend goes that Cardini tossed together whatever ingredients he had on hand: romaine, egg, parmesan, dressing. His friends loved it. Soon, Americans were flocking across the border to taste Cardini's restaurant. Even culinary icon Julia Child sang its praises in her memoirs. Cardini took Italian flavors and Mexican ingredients and birthed a full-fledged American salad favorite. Who would have thought the true birthplace of Caesar salad was a little restaurant in Tijuana all those years ago? Well, delicious accidents happen when cultures collide in the kitchen. Number 2. Cheesecake. Picture this: the island of Samos, 2700 BC. Athletes are fueling up ahead of competition with rounds of creamy, eggy goodness. No, it isn't American-style cheesecake, it's the world's first recorded cheesecake.
Like cheesecake at all?
I love cheesecake.
Today, ask anyone about the origins of cheesecake and they'll tell you it's the quintessential New York dessert. But they'd only be half right. While Americans far and wide claim cheesecake is their own, its actual roots stretch back over 4,000 years to the island of Samos in ancient Greece. The first recorded cheesecakes fueled Greek Olympians in 776 BC, and the tradition continued for a millennia. Fast forward to the Roman Empire, which spread cheesecake recipes across Europe. Over centuries, innovations from royal chefs evolved the recipe, but the foundation remained Greek. It wasn't until 1872 that Americans entered the picture. A New York cream cheese accidental discovery kicked off the Great Cheesecake Heist. By mass marketing Philadelphia cream cheese, cheesecake officially became reclassified as an American treat. Today, few recognize the Greek origins behind bites of creamy cheesecake bliss. Modern versions barely resemble their austere ancestors, but no matter how many spins it takes, cheesecake's heart will always be Hellenic. So, the next slice you savor, think twice before crediting America. This dessert's true origins deserve recognition after thousands of years of Greek legacy. It might just be time for America to stop taking the credit for a delicacy they didn't invent and return cheesecake to its rightful owners. Number 1. Sauerkraut. For as long as we can remember, we've been under the assumption that sauerkraut, the pickled cabbage side dish, comes from Germany, but do you know its roots trace back to ancient China? Centuries ago, Genghis Khan and the Mongols first introduced fermented veggies to Europe while conquering territories. And over time, sauerkraut found a perfect home in Germany. But some evidence suggests the tradition of pickling cabbage may even predate that. Writings from Greek physician Hippocrates and Roman scholar Pliny mention cultures fermenting vegetables back then. Now, while it's unclear if those Asian or Mediterranean styles made it to Germanic islands, it's fascinating to think sauerkraut's history could be thousands of years old. Germany mastered the art of sauerkraut making, but isn't it cool to discover how global exchanges and evolution over centuries led to the version we know? The more we learn about food origins, the more interconnected our culinary histories appear. Who would have guessed one of Germany's icons traces back to ancient China via Greece and Rome? I sure didn't. And there you have it. Even though these dishes might not have originated where we thought they did, that doesn't make them any less delicious. It shows how cultures borrow and exchange ideas, constantly evolving and creating new culinary masterpieces. Now I'm curious to hear from you. What's a food you always thought was from one place but then discovered a surprising origin story? Hit the comments below and let's keep the food history conversation going. See you next time.